Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Coast to Coast Entertainment Network. I am Ace, and you're watching another episode of Sports Minute. That's right, I'm back. I am back in the house. And of course, Big B is with us tonight. And then, of course, James Gonzalez is back. So, Big B, how are you doing tonight?
Hi, I'm doing good. As you guys know, if you follow the show, Wednesday's my card night, and not going so hot in the card department. I can't pull off those last second victories like the Vikings can, but it's still a fun time going.
Mm-hmm. All right. And then, of course, welcome in our newest full-time member of James Gonzalez. James Gonzalez, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good, and thank you for having me on as always. I had a long double shift day, and it's a good
Ooh,
closing to the night or to the day tonight with being here on Sports Minute. We got so many great topics. I can't wait to get into them.
Anytime you can hop on and talk sports, it makes it for a great freaking night. So
Mm-hmm.
we kind of had the order that we wanted to follow, but we're going to start out with something different only because today it was breaking news, and this is James's favorite team. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's the proper thing to do to cover this because it's his favorite team. And just so everybody knows, it's right, we're covering the conversation about Derek Carr. So, James, with you being the Raiders fan, I want to get your opinion on the Derek Carr situation.
Well, for many years, we figured this was going to be the case, that he was going to be released, traded, whatever the case is. Signing the new deal like he did before last season, you knew there was going to be an out after this season, and it might be time. The last 5 or 6 weeks, he hasn't been so good, and the team, even though winning three straight, they've fallen and they need a lot of help to get in. And obviously, with Devontae Adams coming in, there is high expectations. Being in Las Vegas, you have to win, you have to market, but most importantly, win. And that hasn't happened. Carr has put up his worst numbers, I believe, the last 3 weeks in his career, it seems like, and all when they really needed him. You could blame weather, you could blame scheme, whatever you want, but it always seemed like this was inevitable. He will be benched the last two games, I believe, coming up against 49ers and Chiefs. And then after that, it's just, you don't really know what's going to happen. You could try to trade him away, but in reality, who's going to want him? Maybe he'll work in a different situation. I don't know the case. But again, this has been for years. And the Raider fan base has been torn. A lot of people wanted Russell Wilson last off season. Imagine how that would have gone if we got Russell Wilson and traded Carr to the Broncos. But I don't know if they would have done that, or to the Seahawks. They might have done that, but just imagine if that would have been the case. My only thing with the Raiders and Derek Carr and this situation, if he goes, who are you going to bring in that is supposedly better or is ready? I know Ace mentioned they could do a deal with the Packers, throw some picks in there, money supposedly that Mark Davis does not have. They also have to sign Josh Jacobs back. They declined his fifth-year option. That hurts because he's balling out and he knows he's going to get paid this offseason. There's a lot going on with the Raider organization, but this move has been a long time coming. If it does, they got to figure it out, because if they keep him, it's going to be 3 more years of this after this season. And I don't know if the fan base wants to go through that. And I don't know if ownership and new management, new coaching wants to go through this. Remember, Mark Davis does not have the money to do what the Broncos did today and fire Nathaniel Hackett and eat up all that money. They have to wait 2 more years to fire McDaniels. So I'm wondering who they bring in at quarterback with McDaniels being there. It's going to be interesting to see, but this was a move that had to be made, and we'll see. It's Jarrett Stidham starting for the Raiders, and I watched him in preseason. It was all right, but it was nothing really to be excited about. So I know they're gonna probably lose the next two, to be honest.
Well, I can tell you that, I've got a buddy of mine who's a big Raiders fan also. And before the season started, I can tell you he's never been a Carr fan. This whole year, he's like, I don't want him. I want him out. I want him out. And before the season started, even the people who liked Carr, I told them, the Raiders fans that liked him, I told them, I was like, this is going to be it. I was like, they went out, they got Devontae. You have Renfro. You have Waller. You have Jacobs. I said, after this season, if they're bad, there's no more excuses. For Derek Carr at quarterback, there will be no more excuses. And the way he's played the last 3 weeks, you can't have any more excuses. You can't sit there and say, well, it's. I'm like, no. They went out and got freaking Devontae Adams. So you can't, at this point in time, you have to look at Carr and say, he's just not it. He is not the guy. And it's finally time to look at that and be like, all right, it's time to move on. Carr is not the answer. We got to get a quarterback because he's not it. And now I think everybody sees that. And that goes along with that, James. I don't know if you saw that too, but it came out that Derek Carr did say for the next 2 weeks he's going to actually be away from the team. He won't be practicing. He won't be at the games.
Oh, wow.
Benched. Yeah, because he got benched, he's like, I don't want to be there. I'm not going to be at practice. I'm not going to be at the games. So
he took the Marcus Mariota way out, but Marcus Mariota actually had a kid, and he's on that. So
yeah,
parental leave. The Carr, I thought that was a joke. Honestly, I didn't think that was real, but I found a source that said, yeah,
it's real. It's real. He said that he will not be there, and I was like, wow, you got to be kidding me. So, Big B, before we'll go back to you, James, in just a minute here. But, Big B, now you're getting this new information about Carr being like, yeah, I'm not going to be at practice and I won't be at the games. But anyways, what's your thoughts on this situation?
Well, now you're showing that you're not a team player, that you're going to be a diva on this whole deal. So, any team that needs a quarterback now, you just hurt yourself in them wanting you if this – in fact, is true. I mean, I guess, come Sunday or whenever they play again, if he's not on the sideline, we know it wasn't true or was true. So, I mean, because thinking about it, it's like, okay, maybe Seattle might be in play for him. Maybe they can work a deal with San Fran to get Jimmy G there. I'm trying to think. Tennessee could use a quarterback.
New Orleans.
Half of the league needs one.
I don't think half the league. There's a few teams. I think a lot of teams are banking on some young superstars or some young quarterbacks now, but honestly, if I'm an owner and it's like, oh, God, we need a quarterback. Okay, Derek Carr's on the market. Yeah, he's not the greatest, but he can help us. And then to come out to find out that he's going to skip out on the last 2 weeks for no apparent reason because he got benched, I'm out of the market for Derek Carr. I think that hurts him. I mean, if he finds a job somewhere else, good for him. And Ace, we talked about it. I jokingly said that he could go to Green Bay, possibly. But, I mean, hearing this story, I wouldn't touch him unless, my top 10 options before him don't work out.
All right. Well, James, I know you said you wanted to add one thing. So
real quick, it's amazing to me. I remember 2020, 2021 with Derek Carr. The first 3 weeks, he would look like an MVP candidate and then balance out, up and down and be down. This year, that didn't happen at all. And then I want to say, too, Renfro was out a lot of time with a concussion, and then Waller had a couple of injuries as well. So that kind of hindered his core a little bit. But he still had Adams, and it seemed like for a couple of weeks they were not going to him as much. And that could be the defenses, too. But you would think Adams can go up and get a ball being double-teamed, but they still were not going to him against the Steelers either. Steelers do have a great defense. And I just read this. Derek Carr steps away from Raiders to avoid obvious distractions. He lives right there in Las Vegas, too. Anyway, that's all I got.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Big B, I agree with you. It's not, on his part, it is not a good look.
Yeah, and like Chrissy says, it's all butthurt about this. I mean, that is true. You're butthurt about it, and yeah.
If
You just took yourself out of probably half the teams that need a quarterback for next year.
Yeah, because the teams are going to look at this and think, okay, if you play bad and we bench you, how are you going to act? Are you just going to be like?
And that's the thing too, is if the coach and ownership have a team meeting like, hey, or has a meeting with their superstars, hey, we need a quarterback. We want to go get Derek Carr. And if I'm a team member, I was like, no, I don't want that guy, because if he doesn't play, then he's going to be butthurt and he's going to not be part of the team. So, yeah, I wouldn't want him.
Right? Because look, if he comes out and doesn't want to be a distraction, the thing is though, you still have to be that team player. You're still there. You need to sit behind your teammates. You need to help them. You have the young quarterbacks out there. You're supposed to be helping them. You're not going to be a distraction. You're not, because your season's virtually over. It's done. And so at that point, it's like, you're not going to be a distraction. You should support the team.
You're really more of a distraction now, being that he's not going to be there, because now, let's say they go out lay an egg, everybody's be like, oh, see, maybe they shouldn't have benched Derek Carr. They could have, had a decent game. But, James, you watch it more than we do, but
they're going to get killed both games.
Yeah,
it didn't matter if Carr was going to play.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So, yeah, it's going to look bad. But before we jump into our next topic, I just want to make sure there's no final thoughts. We don't have any final thoughts on the Derek Carr situation before
in the season now, basically.
Yeah, go butt hurt at home.
Go butt hurt it up. Okay. All right. So we'll go into our next topic here, which our next topic, lo and behold, is the NFC South. And I will tell you, to start the season, if you would have said at week 17, we would have been sitting here talking about who was going to win the NFC South with an under 500 record, I don't think anybody would have been sitting there saying we were going to be talking about this. I think everybody at the beginning of the year was like, oh, yeah, it's the Bucs. Like, it's the clear Bucs. The Bucs are going to take it. It's going to be a runaway. It's not going to be close. And now look what happened. You're week 17. You potentially could have an NFC South team make it with an under 500 record. You could either have the Carolina Panthers, you can have the Buccaneers, or some miracle way, you could even have the Saints make it.
Aren't all four of them still kind of in the running?
Or Falcons are out.
The Falcons are eventually the Falcons are out.
Okay.
The Falcons are out. But you have the Saints, the Bucs, and the Panthers. Now this week we know it's going to be a big game because the Panthers are playing the Bucs. And everybody feels like whoever wins this game is winning the South.
That's crazy.
And so I do feel like that's accurate, because if the Panthers basically control their own destiny at this point, because if they win these next two games, they win the NFC South. They win the NFC South. Yep. So, Big B, I'll start with you. Are you taking the Panthers? Are you taking the Bucs? And for the sake of it, we'll even throw in the Saints.
First off, as host of Morning Tailgate, I will have to go back and check out my preseason rankings, because I'm pretty sure I had the Saints up there. I don't think I had I think I had the Bucs finishing second. I think I had the Panthers finishing last. I could be wrong on that, but hey, give me the Panthers. I mean, you go and trade your best player away, possibly the top 2 or 3 running back in the league, when healthy, away to San Francisco, who now is on like an 8 or 9 game winning streak, playing with a quarterback who is Mr. Irrelevant. And you're in a playoff run right now. Yeah, give me the Panthers and versus the Bucs this week, and give me the Panthers to win out. I think they're gonna do. I don't even know who their last game is against.
It's they play the Bucs and then they play the Saints, and then the Bucs play the Panthers this week, and then they play the Falcons the following week.
Nah, Tom Brady's done. He's over with. He can go into Vegas, I guess.
No.
no, no, no.
No.
He's like, no. All right. So we have Big B who's saying he's taking the Panthers.
Yeah.
All right. So James, we'll go to you. Who you got?
Okay. The amazing thing about this too, whoever wins the division, they're gonna host the playoff game,
Right.
which I can't believe. I still think Tampa Bay wins it for me. They have the experience, but they have to stop the run. Carolina, their running game the last 3 weeks has been amazing. I mean, that's the way they've won games. And then Sam Darnold mixed with the run, he's been passing fairly well, and he doesn't have to do as much. But with Tampa Bay, I know Brady looks done. But even if he could do a little bit of magic, they can win. But the running backs have to be better. Fournette and the rookie has to be better as well. But yeah, credit to Carolina. Again, they traded away not only McCaffrey, but Robbie Anderson had his little, temper tantrum, and Steve
Did they fire their coach too?
Yeah, Matt Rule.
Matt
Rule in, I think it was week 8 or 9. Was shown out the door after he had 2 more years left, I think.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I read about this. All the players hated him. It was the opposite of Denver, where everybody loved Hackett but hated Wilson, but they fired Hackett. In this situation, Carolina, the players hated Rule, and once he was gone, they just started to play so well. It's like that thing with, when you hate your boss and all the employees hate your boss, and when he leaves or she leaves, they go on vacation or they get fired or they transfer, everybody runs so much smoother. And this was the case. Literally, their running game is great as of late, and their defense is coming up really clutch. They had a great game against Seattle. I know they're on their downfall, but you win however you can get it. And they've been creating turnovers, interceptions, fumbles. The defense has been awesome. I want to say Carolina, but I still think Tampa Bay has too many weapons, and their defense can be good. But if Carolina gets it, great. But I'm going to go with Tampa Bay.
So, James, you hurt me. You cut me deep here. And what I mean by that is I kind of agree with you. And the thing is, and the thing is, though, is like, for me, I want to pick the Panthers. Mm-hmm. I would love none other than to see Carolina win the South. I would love it. It would be a great story. It would be one of those feel-good stories. You feel good for them. The problem is with Brady's experience and the experience on the Bucs, I just think it's too much. I think that experience is going to overcome how bad they're playing right now. Mm-hmm. And I think this game right here, because we know that the Bucs lost to them last time. The Bucs lost to the Panthers last time. It was like 20-3. It wasn't even like really a close game. And there's no way that the Bucs are going to come out and get embarrassed again.
Is it in Tampa or is it in Carolina?
In Tampa.
Yeah, this one's in Tampa.
Okay, so they got that going for them. But, Carolina's – I just think Carolina's just playing no sense football right now because nobody thought they'd be where they're at. Everybody's counting them out. I would guarantee – well, I shouldn't guarantee that. But if I'm the coach or interim coach or GM and we fired our coach, we traded our best player away, blah, 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 and everybody's like, oh, Panthers can't do this, I'm putting that all over the locker room, all the clippings. I'm motivating this team as much as I can. That everybody's counting us out.
Well, see, that's the thing. I'm not saying that the Panthers can't do it.
Oh, no, I know what you're saying.
But I'm saying I just truly feel like the Bucs have too much experience.
Yep.
I feel like that experience is going to overtake what Carolina is going to do. Now, if Carolina wins again, it's definitely not going to be a blowout like last time. I definitely think it's going to be a much closer game. The Bucs are going to come ready. I think even the Panthers are going to come ready. I think both teams are going to come ready. I think it's going to be a great game. In the end, I think
the game of the week.
Yep, I think that the experience is just going to be too much, and so I think the Bucs are going to get past them because of that experience. And
can't dispute what you guys are saying. I mean,
so I think two of us have the Bucs, and Big B, you have the Panthers. Christy's putting in the chat that she has the Panthers, and
as long as Crispy Bacon doesn't tweet message us in the last half or last quarter when the Panthers are up, saying, "Hey, this game's over. Panthers look like they're going to upset the Bucks." Then we know the Bucks are going to win. If he does that, then we know the Buccaneers are going to come back and take it.
So, James, have you heard this story? Have you heard? There's an actual thing on the C2C. It's called the Crispy Jinx.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Because 5 times this season, 5 times he's come out in a game with a team winning by 13 plus in the fourth quarter, and he messages in the chat and says
Game over.
5 times that team has come back and won, and I was like, it's the Crispy Jinx. When Dallas was beating Jacksonville, he put in the chat. He goes in there and says, "Well, it's over. The Cowboys won." And Jacksonville comes back and wins. I'm like, there's that Crispy Jinx.
Right before the pick six, too.
That's just amazing to me because there's 4 or 5 teams, and the Raiders are one of them, the Broncos and the Ravens. Once they score 16 or they're up 16 or 13 points, they've lost that game, and they've done it multiple times. So I'm wondering how many of those were the Chris's Jinx.
Well, so the Vikings and Colts?
Oh my God, no.
Crispy Bacon.
Oh God.
Crispy Bacon.
And honestly, that game too. I even when after they scored the first touchdown, I'm like, watch, they're gonna come back and either they're gonna lose this close or they're gonna end up winning. It's gonna go into overtime or something like that.
Wow.
Crispy Bacon. I'm telling you, it's that Crispy Jinx.
Yep.
All right. Going away from this topic now, we will go into our next one. So we know about how all this craziness is going on right now with the whole Carlos Correa.
Yep.
The whole thing is just crazy, and kind of signs with the Giants supposedly, takes a physical, fails the physical. So then the Giants are like, okay, we don't want you. Then the report comes out and says, well, it wasn't over a physical. It was over something else, and so that was the original report. And then he goes and signs with the Mets. Then it turns out, well, now the Mets are scared about his physical. So it turns out in the end that it was actually his physical overall. It wasn't because of anything else. He failed the physical with the Giants. The Mets are now scared about his physical, and they're not even sure what to do right now. And so now it's like they showed this meme on Facebook, and it shows the meme from Moneyball.
Yep.
And it shows the assistant GM going, you see, Billy, this is Carlos Correa. And if we wait it out, everyone is scared. Everyone is scared of his physical. So if we wait it out, we should be able to sign him for $200,000.
We'll have to send you that meme there, James.
I can envision it.
Yeah, it was such a great meme, and I was like, that's awesome. That's awesome. And what's up, Isaiah? Yes, belated Christmas. Good job. All right. So I started with Big B last time. So James, I'll start with you. Your thoughts on this wild Carlos Correa? Does he stay a Met, or does he end up going somewhere else?
It's amazing because that afternoon, I remember seeing that I should say that night I saw him sign with the Giants. They were going to have a press conference. And all of a sudden, I wake up in the morning. It's like, oh, there's no press conference. And then later on in the day, when I'm at work, oh, he's a Met. I'm like, what the hell?
Right.
What happened? Yeah, he's only 28 years old. It was a 12-year deal with the Mets here. But there's concerns with Correa's lower left leg. It was surgically repaired in 2014. He broke the fibula on a slide during a minor league game. That just seems a long time ago, and to me, it felt like the Giants were hesitant because of that, and it seems like he needs some type of surgery that his agent, Scott Boras, is just trying to avoid, because he wants his money out of that 10%, whatever it is. But I think that's the reason San Francisco didn't want him, because I think there was something had to be lied about. And Correa, did the physical, or did you feel good or something? I don't know, but I feel like maybe he's needed more surgery over the years. I know he had a finger issue last year with Minnesota. I did read there's a 55% chance that the two sides, the Mets and Correa, can find common ground, but the importance is to put an MRI on Correa's lower left leg, and then figure out the current functionality of his ankle joint, and then go from there. So it seems like we're not out of the rut yet, and this might be a lingering thing into next year about if he's able to play. If not, maybe he should, get the surgery done, whatever the case is, and then try to come back next season. But I know what Dodger fans and I know what other fans are thinking right now, and they're kind of happy that Correa is in this situation because of what happened with the cheating scandal in 2017 and before that. So I know they're probably, having fun with the situation. And it's almost like karma in a way, I think, for Dodger fans to think this about Correa. And it would have been awkward, too, for Correa to be a Giant and they go to Dodger Stadium, 3 times a season. That would have been madness. So it's good that it's good that he didn't go to the Giants, because that would have been, you saw what they did, I think, in 2021, the Dodger fans to the Astros and their fans that came to the ballpark, and that would have been every year constants with their fans going at it. So I don't know. I mean, the Mets have made so many great moves so far. This would tarnish everything they've done. I would hope Correa takes the year off if it really needs to, and gets the surgery done, whatever needs to be done, and come back next season and get a and hope to get a similar contract in dollars.
Who knows, right? All right, Big B, I'm going to shift this over to you. Some very interesting stuff going on with Carlos Correa. Give us your take on what you think is going to happen.
Well, everything's coming out now. It's like, what the heck were the Twins looking at? Did they not care? I mean, were they really that desperate to get a all-star shortstop in their system and pay, the 3 years? Granted, it was only a 1-year deal with 2 player options, but I mean, what were the Twins thinking? I mean, because this has happened, I think they said 3 years ago, so it would have been 2 years from when the Twins signed them. Again, why are teams not performing these physicals before they do the physical, or before anything's announced about the signing? Because now you got the Giants looking like idiots. You got the Mets, who 24 hours after that pick them up, sign them, and now they're unsure if they want them. I mean, I just don't get why teams aren't doing physicals beforehand. And a couple of Isaiah's comments here, dude. If he ends up in Oakland, dude, he's going to be paid more than the whole 24 other roster spots in Oakland.
Right.
And the Dodgers already said they don't want him.
That would have been weird.
And Isaiah, you're pipe dreaming. He's not going to Philly.
No.
He'd probably go to the Yankees before he goes to Philly.
He's not. And that whole thing is interesting. And like you're talking about with the Giants, what I laughed about it, what I thought was funny was that, like, after he backed out of it, or not really backed out, but they're like, yeah, we don't want him because of his failed physical. Next thing I know, I also see another meme that says, well, if you want a Carlos Correa jersey, you can get it at 75% off at your nearest San Francisco stores now. So,
yeah.
So it's like, yeah, it didn't even come hot off the press yet. It is like, okay, it goes on a discounted price. That's how quickly it happened. It was there overnight, bam, gone.
Right.
It's like, so now.
Well, there was a meme out there too that everybody's like, well, the Giants had Aaron Judge for 7 hours and let him walk, and now they had Correa for 6 days and let him walk. So
well, the person who came out with the Aaron Judge story is the one who came out and confessed that, hey, I pulled the trigger too fast.
Yeah.
I said it too fast. I said he was going there, but I was wrong. And,
John Heyman on the Twitter.
Yep.
Yeah, and he's like, and that's my fault. He's like, I broke that too fast. I pulled the trigger too fast, and that's what happened.
That's why a lot of reporters are not liked in the sports world, because they try to pull a trigger so fast. I mean, there's a lot of players that don't trust reporters until they get to know them and make sure that they're legit and not doing it to try to get famous.
Right. I mean, to me also, like, I look at this Correa situation and I'm like, where's he gonna? Is he gonna stay with the Mets? I honestly do think like he ends up staying there. I don't think he ends up going anywhere else. I think he's gonna end up being there. Does it turn out well? Probably not. Because I start feeling like my honest thing is I feel like all these teams go out and spend all this money because they're like, oh, we're gonna go out and we're gonna spend money to win a championship, and then they lose, and then they go out and spend more money. And I'm like, okay, why do you keep spending more money? Like this is not helping. But I do agree though that there does need to be a cap on the salary cap at some point. There really does, because it's really limiting the smaller market teams. It's hurting them in the end. But when it comes to that, anyways, Carlos Correa, I think he's going to stay in Mets. I'm not a Mets fan. I can't stay in the Mets, but I think he ends up with the Mets anyways.
I think the dark horse, if he does sign with the Mets, I know there's been a couple Padres that have Padre players that have stepped up and came to the media and said, "Hey, we'd welcome him here." So
the Padres have 7 shortstops already.
Oh yeah, I know. That's why I'm just like, really?
Right.
It's like the Braves of a few years ago having all these catchers, didn't know what to do with them.
Yeah, it'd be funny though too, because the Padres be like, oh, we'll sign him, and they get him, and the Padres go, all right, well, let's see, we have 4 other shortstops. We moved 1 to second. Hey, can you play left field? It's like okay, we'll just stick you in left field. So it's like, all right. So,
but Chrissy's right. Baseball's needed to salary cap for years.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It does.
It needs to stop with these like 10-year, 12-year massive deals. There's got to be a limit on years. That's what I think.
Yeah. Well, you don't want no more Bobby Bonilla contracts?
I don't want any Albert Pujols contracts. That's for sure.
It's funny though too, because that was still a joke too. When Aaron Judge signed his massive deal, everyone's like, "Yep." And when Judge's contract expires, you know what's going to be happening? The Mets are still paying Bobby Bonilla.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Wow, that's funny." It's the Bobby Bonilla day. All right, so we can go ahead and jump into our next topic. So our next topic is actually we're talking about a little bit of NCAA football. We're talking about who we truly feel is going to be in the championship game. I can honestly tell you, I think it's going to be Georgia and Michigan again. I really do. I think it's going to be a whole repeat again. You're going to get the same thing, and I honestly think that Georgia is going to go in and mop the floor with Michigan again. I just feel like it's going to happen. I don't see a team right now that can beat Georgia. I just think that when the season started, everyone's like, okay, you have Georgia, but then you do have some other teams that are right there on their heels. And I was like, okay, who's on their heels? And now Georgia has shown this year it's Georgia, and then you have everybody else under them. So I don't see anybody right now that's going to beat Georgia. I just don't. I don't think there's a good enough team out there that can take Georgia down. So honestly, I do have them going up against Michigan, but I think it's going to be the same outcome as last time. So, Big B, do you have Georgia and Michigan? And
what are the matchups again?
Number 3 TCU takes on number 2 Michigan. Then number 4 Ohio State faces number 1 Georgia.
God. You know, as a Big Ten follower, you know, you want both Big Ten teams in there, but again, I mean, I just don't like the fact that, you know, I mean, granted, the football, you know, they got the wild card game in, and you know they can make it to the Super Bowl, but when it's a short playoff season like this, I just don't like the fact that you didn't win your conference. You should not be in the playoffs. So, yeah, I go. You're right, Ace. I mean, it's Georgia and everybody else, and honestly, Georgia possibly could beat some of the pro teams right now. So I'll go. I'll go Georgia, Michigan too, and hopefully Michigan. Hopefully Michigan pulls it out. But I think you're right. I think it's Georgia's trophy to lose.
All right, so and Christy said, if Michigan loses, does that mean that Jim Harbaugh leaves? No, because Jim Harbaugh has already come out and said he has no interest in going to the NFL.
He's got a lifetime deal there because he beat Ohio State. That's all that matters.
He's staying at Michigan. He doesn't want to go anywhere. He's completely happy there. And I mean, he's making millions of dollars at Michigan. So he's not going anywhere. They signed him to a massive deal, and they're giving him millions of dollars. All right. So James, do you feel the same way? It's Georgia and Michigan.
I do, but I think in that TCU Michigan game, Michigan all year has been dominating on defense and then running the ball down people's throats and then passing well. The thing is, Michigan's defense might not be at full strength, come game time. And then if they win, how will they go up against the greater Georgia? TCU, it's going to take a whole team effort. They'll need the defense to do well, force Michigan to pass when they don't want to. The only way TCU can win this game if it turns into a shootout. That's the only way, but I'll go with Michigan there. And then Ohio State and Georgia. Again, we've seen Ohio State lose to Michigan twice this year, or the last 2 years, which has been really good to see. I mean, for years, the Buckeyes would destroy the Wolverines.
Right.
And you would feel like, oh, maybe Jim Harbaugh isn't the answer. But finally, they got over the hump, a couple of years ago in this season. But Georgia's been the most dominant team in this country on both sides of the ball. Their offense is balanced, efficient, capable of running the ball well and throwing. The Buckeye offense can put up points quickly and often, but their defense is going to have to do a stellar job. But I've got Georgia winning that and then beating Michigan for it all.
All right. Well, but do you think that Michigan will be able to keep it close against Georgia?
I think for maybe
he's saying no. He's like no.
Maybe the first 3 quarters, if they meet up, the first 3 quarters, and then Georgia will pull away.
It'll be close at the coin flip and then kickoff, and then when Crispy Bacon chimes in the fourth quarter, that's where it'll get close again.
We've got a game.
We got a game. I don't know. I just feel like Georgia is too good. Like, I feel like it is too good. I do, Big B, the one thing that I do agree with you on that you were talking about is that if Georgia is going to lose a game, they have to beat themselves. Like, they're gonna have to. They're going to have to self-destruct. They're going to have to implode.
And again, too, it's not like back in the day when everybody played, all your superstars played, everybody played. A lot of these kids, if they know they're going to be in the first couple round draft picks coming up draft, they're not going to play. They might play the one playoff game, but they won't play the championship game, which makes no sense to me. But, but I just think Georgia, it doesn't matter. Their second string is probably better than a lot of first stringers anyways on some of the other teams. But, hats off to them if they pull it off. Hats off to whoever knocks them off because it's going to take a battle.
One good thing is that finally Alabama's not in the playoff.
Yeah.
Right. For once.
Right. That's awesome. I definitely love that. That makes me so happy.
Mm-hmm.
It makes my soul shiver. All right. So going to our next topic is that, and this is kind of an interesting one. This question was asked on Facebook, so I looked at the question, I'm like, you know what? That's a damn good question. And I was like, I really want to ask this. So the question is, your favorite MLB player of all time that people may not have considered them as a good player. You look at them and you're like, you know what? They were one of my favorite players, but people didn't see him as a good player. But maybe you did. So, James, I'm going to start with you. That one player that you liked that people may not have thought was good.
For a good couple of hours today, I was really thinking about this. And I was down to Martin Prado. You remember him, of course, from the Braves.
Mm-hmm.
There were some others in there. But mine is Rafael Furcal. He was a former Brave, with Dodger and other places. But at the top of the lineup, I always liked him. I always thought, man, he gets on base. He can steal really well. He slapped for base hits and doubles. And he played a solid second base. But I don't think he ever made an all-star team. And I think he's really forgotten. Another player I was thinking of was John McDonald. He was a second baseman / shortstop. He was really good defensively, but not really well with the bat. But for me, is Rafael Furcal. I can always, even though he was on other teams, and I always wish the Angels could have got him, but when he was around, they were going with a youth movement at shortstop and second, so they can never get him. But with Furcal, I just know how dependable he was, and I don't think he got the recognition that he should have. But anywhere he went, I always liked watching him and leading off for teams. So that's mine.
Well, the thing is, James, is yes, Rafael Furcal was a great player. And the thing is this, though. Rafael Furcal did not get the recognition he deserved because he was overshadowed by the lineup that Atlanta had. Like, you have to think about the people he played with. He played with Andrew Jones. He played with Chipper Jones. He played with all these big-time names. So, yeah, he was definitely overshadowed by all these players. Javier Lopez, and guys like that. So it's hard to sit there and talk about a Rafael Furcal when you're on teams like that. And it's like, so yeah, he was definitely overshadowed. So Big B, I'll go to you and say, who is that one player?
For me, I think it's a guy that you could put in the lineup everywhere, no matter what. And the one guy that I think has done it best since probably 2000, he's not in the league no more, but Michael Kadire has done it. And even right now with the Twins, Arise, you could just pencil him in anywhere and he puts up numbers. He puts up good defensive numbers. And, I don't mean the guys that, it's a blowout game, we're going to throw him out there in left field or have him pitch. Kadire, I think, was an all-star when he went to Colorado, I think, when he was a right fielder. But the guy was drafted as a shortstop, played second, played right, played first, played left, played third. I mean, so I'm going to cop my way out and say a decent utility guy like Michael Kadire or Rise.
It's funny, Big B, I remember him being really good with magic tricks.
Yep.
That was his thing off the field. And I thought you were going to say Lou Ford for the Twins.
No. No, Lou Ford, no. No, Michael Kadire, that guy everywhere. And I think when he went to the All-Star game, he said he brought all his fielding gloves because he didn't know where he was going to play.
Good.
Well, I mean, when you don't know, you don't know. And James, I was kind of like you when it came to this topic. I really had to sit there and I really had to think about it. And I was like, damn, man. I was like, who do I really want to go with? Because there was even Braves players that I was like, there was Braves players, there was non-Braves players that I was sitting there and I was thinking about. And I'm like, who can I really go with? One of the names that popped in my head was Eric Burns. Because, I thought that Eric Burns was a good player, very, very underrated. People didn't really talk much about Eric Burns, but I'm like, dude, that guy was good. Like, he was actually good, and he didn't get enough credit. Another one that I felt like, and I know, James, you're going to hate hearing this name because he was an Angel, but I just felt how good he was on defense. Simba and Andrelton Simmons. And so and I know because he played for the Angels, but he also played for Atlanta. And I just know when he was in Atlanta, how many runs he saved because he was such a good freaking shortstop. And I was like, the dude was like underrated. And I was like, man, the dude saved so many runs. And he was so good on the defensive side. It's like he made up for it on the defensive side what he couldn't do offensively. And that's and that's what made him so good. And then the last one that I was kind of stuck with too was Charlie Clutch, which we call him Charlie Culberson. That dude had more big hits than so many guys I know. And I was like, every time the game was on the line, I'm like, Culberson's up. Yes, we have a shot at winning this thing. And I was like, you need a big hit? Charlie Clutch Culberson is that guy that I'm like, you put up there, he's getting you that big hit. So in the end, when I really thought about it, I'm like, I got to go with Charlie Clutch because I thought what he did was completely underrated and how he always just bounced from team to team to team. And I was like, how does he not stick on a team with the clutch hits that this dude does? He's not called Charlie Clutch for nothing.
Yep.
That's funny. I remember he won the division for the Dodgers in 2016. It was the last home game, last Sunday of the season, Vince Scully's last game at home, and he hit a walk-off home run. And he was always that pinch-hitting guy off the bench that you can rely on. And he did, like you said, he did it for so many teams. So I definitely agree with you on that.
He did, but he saved Atlanta's bacon so many times with clutch hits. Like guys would go down and they're like, who are they putting in? I'm like, it's Culberson, baby. It's Charlie Clutch. You can't go wrong with Charlie Clutch. They're putting him in the lineup and he's going to get you a couple hits. And so it's like, you got to go with good old Charlie Clutch. So when Swanson, did not re-sign with Atlanta, I'm sitting here and I'm like, wonder what Charlie Culberson's up to. I really wonder what he's up to. Let's get him back. We'll have him play a little bit of shortstop here. Why not? So I have to know, Big B, for you, was this topic tough? Was this topic tough for you?
No, trying to name some players. I mean, yeah, but like I've always said, and I've said it on deck and a couple other, give me a good, solid utility guy that I can place everywhere, and I think that's the most valuable part of a team. So.
And James, I know you said this one was tough for you.
Yeah, it was tough because there was a lot of Angels that I knew, but there was a lot of them I don't think people would know. Like there was Reggie Willits. He was a guy that was a speedster that would come off the bench and lay down some bunts and steal bases, pinch run, whatnot. And then Sean Figgins was what Big B just explained. He could play every position except first, pitcher, and catcher. But he literally played every other position. But I thought he was so valuable that I was not going to put him in that category of just being good to me. I thought he was awesome. That's why I didn't put him in there.
It's funny that you mentioned his name though too, because I remember back in high school
from Georgia.
Yeah, I remember back from high school, and you're talking about Sean Figgins. So I remember back from here, and we were playing fantasy baseball. Oh. And I was at my friend's house, and we're sitting there, and we're doing a live draft, and this other guy that we brought in to be like, yeah, join us. The guy's like, I know all the players, man. I know all the stuff about baseball. And so we're like, okay, you're up, and the guy's like, in the first round, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take this guy. He's got the name of Chone. It's Chone. I was like,
first round? Wow.
Yeah. I was like, Chone? I was like, you mean Sean? I was like, wow, Chone.
Dude, I still remember his whole name. It was Desmond D. Sean Figgins. And that's like the equivalent Chris picking the Bills defense this
God.
year in fantasy, and look how it's worked out though.
Right? Yeah, it was funny. It was really funny though. I laughed about it. But when you're saying baseball, and then you're like, I'm taking Joan Figgins, and you're like, Joan Figgins, huh?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people would have thought that weren't Angel fans or weren't here on the West Coast. They would have learned to say it that way.
Yeah, Joan. Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Figgins. So we do have time to hit that last topic that I wanted to talk about because it came out, and in a way, yeah, I was kind of surprised in a way. I don't know if you guys were surprised, but the news I'm talking about is the news that J.J. Watt is officially retiring after the season. So to me, I think it actually shocked me in a way. I was not actually expecting him to kind of walk away. I know that Mike Tomlin kind of talked about it, and I don't know if you heard this, but Mike Tomlin came out and said he that Pittsburgh was going to offer J.J. Watt money to come and play for Pittsburgh, so he can have all the Watts on the same team. But and then it turns out that J.J. Watt is kind of walking away, and so we all agree that J.J. Watt's going to be a Hall of Famer.
Oh yeah,
I think we all definitely agree with that. So. Big B, what do you think about this news that J.J. Watt is walking away after the season?
Is he under contract or is this his final year of his contract? I mean, because again, you announce your retirement, you sit back, you wait, get healthy, preseason comes along, you get that itch again. It wouldn't roll out signing with Pittsburgh. I know if I was Watt and had two brothers playing, yeah, I'd probably want to, go. Scratch the surface a little bit and see, what it would be like to play with my brothers. Even if I'm a part-time player, that third down, defensive lineman or linebacker, I think it'll be a good run. But again, we'll see what next preseason says because we've heard it before. A lot of people have retired, and then once they get that itch, they come back. So it'll be interesting to see if he actually fulfills that retirement. Best to him, definitely Hall of Famer. Now the debate is we kind of had it backstage, first ballot or what? I don't know, but
Big B, I think he's at that point in his career though, to where he's kind of feeling like Andrew Luck, and what I mean by that is I think he's tired of the constant rehabbing. He's getting sick of having to rehab after every game, every week, every season. He's tired of doing it. And I just don't think he wants to spend his time having to rehab after every game now.
Oh, no, you're exactly right. He probably is. Like I said, though, you get that itch, once you sit out a whole season, you're not talking. I mean, look at Brady. He said he was done after last year, come back. So, I mean, you're probably right. I mean, the guy has been injured pretty good, so I think I think it's I'll say 99% chance he does not play next year.
All right, James, I'm going to go ahead and send this over to you.
By the way, Big B, his contract. So he was slated his contract to be with the Cardinals until 2025.
Okay.
And then he had the option until 2025 he would have been a free agent. So
so he's under contract with the Cardinals, so they would have to trade him. So.
Yeah, if he did come back. But I remember he almost actually died this season. He had a a heart issue.
Yes.
AFib issue.
I did forget that one. Yeah.
During the week, and then he came back to play that game. That's how much he loved the game. And he was like, guys would usually, okay, I'm gonna take the rest of the year off. I'm not gonna come back. No, I'm ready to go. We still got a chance for this. And I was always remembering that last year with the Titans, and this came up as the Broncos were struggling this year. J.J. Watt had a great press conference talking about, we're doing it for the fans. I'm playing for the fans. I'm playing for the community. There's guys that weren't, I guess, showing up for practice or slacking off. It was going into week 17, but I always remember his heart for the game, literally heart for his game. But for me, he's a definite Hall of Famer. When you think about it, he was a Defensive Player of the Year 3 times. first team All-Pro 5 times, 5-time Pro Bowler, 2-time sack leader. He was the leader of forced fumbles once, All-Decade Team in 2010s, Rookie Team, Sports Illustrated Man of the Year, host of other, awards, first team All Big Ten. Remember, he had to transfer to Washington or Wisconsin. He was not right away in a big school. And then the also records that he has. He has 2 seasons of 20-plus sacks, and those, of course, led the league. And I thought that was amazing to me. So he has 111 and a half sacks right now. And the thing I always remember, his pass deflections at the line, I loved those because he would take them to the house, remember, in Houston. So he's one of the best defense players of all time, and I think it's good for him. After all, he almost died this year.
Yeah.
I do remember that, but I will never forget the story of Pete Caldwell. The baseball player who got struck by lightning.
Yeah.
Died, revived, and still finished the game. So it's
I'm good. Yeah.
There's actually another story of Watt that I always forget about too until we bring up his name. And I was like, oh yeah, the year I think it was still in Houston, and they played the Packers in a preseason game, and of course Packer kids had the players ride their bike back and forth to practice, and he got on one and broke it, and so he bought the kid a new bike.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. And that was one thing that I wished would have happened at least, one time before J.J. Watt retired, was I was hoping that he just played one season in Green Bay, just so he could kind of, play in Wisconsin like he went to college. So
after he backed out of Minnesota, playing for the Gophers.
Yeah. So I really do. At that point, it's like, oh, I wish he would have just played one season there. At least got one season under his belt in Green Bay, and then he could have retired. But hats off to J.J. Watt. Excellent career, Hall of Famer, one of the best defensive linemen to ever do it. And so we all at C2C hope you enjoy your life and whatever you choose to do. Hopefully you're happy with the life that you choose. And thank you for all the wonderful memories out there on the field, J.J. Watt.
And we know he watches, so if he wants to shout out and come on the show, all you have to do is pick up the phone and call.
Right. All right. So we're at that point now. We're at our final thoughts. So Big B, go ahead and give us your final thoughts.
Just want to thank everybody for commenting. Isaiah, Chrissy, Michelle. I think there's a couple others, but just keep checking out C2C. We're revamping things. Just like any other network, gonna redo our lineups here, and hopefully we keep the shows going. Bring back some of our hosts that have disappeared for a little bit, and start building our shows up again. And James, welcome to the crew as a full-time member. So can't wait to do more work with you, and check us out Sunday for morning tailgate.
Mm-hmm. All right. And James Gonzalez, any final thoughts for you, sir?
Yeah, again, thank you for having me on and being a full-time member. I'm going to be liking this very much. My final thought is, definitely rest in peace to all the sports figures we lost this year. The untimely passing of Franco Harris. Yeah. Vin Scully, of course, my idol. But there was Bill Russell when you think about him, and there was so many other people. Mills Lanes. For the Raiders, Ray Guy and Daryl LaMonica. Those hit early in the year. Ray Guy during the season. But there was a couple of NBA referees. Odalis Perez, if you remember him, Adam with the Braves. I always remember him, a great pitcher. John Clayton was a ESPN reporter that I remember so well. Len Dawson, Super Bowl champion. Tony Saragusa, Super Bowl champion. There was a host of others, but
Franco Harris.
Yeah, Franco Harris. That was crazy to me. Just all these names that I kind of forgot because it was earlier in the year, but they've all meant something in my life. Trying to like get film back then or look at pictures, and it makes you think all the guys that we grew up reading about or learning about, they're starting to pass away little by little.
Yep.
That's kind of the unfortunate part about life, but that's life.
And I honestly, because even though this is not this particular person was not a sports player, but the impact it left on a lot of people's life was Betty White.
Oh yeah.
And so yeah, a big impact. So with that, thanks everybody for watching, and we can't wait to see everybody again next Wednesday for another episode of Sports Minute. Have a great night, and we'll see you next week.
Peace.